Today I'm reacting to one of my old videos about fixed and pinned connections. I'll see what I got right, what I got wrong, and what I would explain differently now. This should be interesting, so let's go.
What if I told you that this is not a fixed connection? Well, you might say that the end of the beam is welded all around to the flange of the column, therefore it is a fixed connection. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. What about this reinforced concrete beam fully embedded into the column? Is it fixed or pinned?
Okay, before we talk about steel connection, we need to talk about this shirt. Look at the buttons. That's the ultimate failure. I can see your belly, mate. Pretty sure if I scroll down the comments, someone will have mentioned the shirt. Mozzarella 8927. Your shirt is exploding. Why wear so tight? Really good question. Phil says, your shirt is too tight, my friend. Anyway, enough about the shirt. Let's get back to the engineering part. I was using the terms rigid or fixed connection and fixed restraint a bit interchangeably. A rigid connection keeps the angle between members, so the beam and column can still rotate together, but as long as it keeps the angle, you can call it a rigid connection. A fixed restraint, on the other hand, stops the member end from rotating. So that's just a tiny clarification before we keep going.
Fixed connection is able to restrain rotation and transfer moment between the structural members. That's when you get that negative moment in the column. A pinned connection, on the other hand, will allow the structural member to rotate and therefore cannot transfer any moment. So the beam will take all the bending moment.
Yeah, that's correct. A fixed connection tries to stop rotation. A pinned connection allows rotation. That's the simple idea, but in real life, it's not always black and white. Most connections are somewhere in between. Some are very flexible, some are very stiff.
Ability of these connections to transfer moment. If we use this I-beam example, we know that the top fibers above the neutral axis are in compression and the bottom fibers below the neutral axis are in tension. So if we draw the stress distribution over the cross section, we get something like this, with the maximum compressive stress at the top and maximum tensile stress at the bottom of the beam.
Yeah, for gravity loads, the top of the beam is usually in compression, the bottom is usually in tension. For uplift, it flips. Top goes into tension, bottom goes into compression. But in a portal frame rafter, you can get both in the same member. In the middle of the rafter, you might have sagging moment. That means tension at the bottom and compression at the top. And near the restrained ends, like around the knee joints, you might have hogging moment. And that means tension at the top and compression at the bottom. That's why looking at the bending moment diagrams is very important.
Not new for you. You learned this in mechanics of materials. My point here is the flanges are taking the bending moment.
Yeah, bending creates compression and tension. So in an I-beam, for example, the flanges do most of the work resisting that tension and compression couple. And then the web does most of the shear work.
From the beam to the column, like a fixed connection does, guess what? You need to connect the flanges to the column. It makes sense, right? The same principle applies to reinforced concrete beams, but now instead of a flange, you have the reinforcing bars. A pin connection, also known as shear connection, will require only the web of the beam to be connected to the column, or sometimes the bottom flange as well. And if you use the same train of thought, you know that the web takes most of the shear, and that's why you only need to attach the web of the beam to the column. I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples of shear connections as well as moment connections. Let's start with shear connections. This is a clit plate welded to the flange of the column and bolted to the web of the beam.
Yeah, that's a web side plate connection. Some people might call it a fin plate connection, depending where they are.
This one is a beam to beam connection.
That's a flexible end plate connection.
You can have an angle bolted to the flange of the column and bolted to the web of the beam.
That's an angle clit connection.
You can also have a welded angle seat with bolts to the beam.
That's a seated connection.
And for the moment connections, this is a welded connection between beam and column with stiffness.
Yeah, exactly. That's a welded moment connection. These stiffeners are used where the local parts of the column need some help. To make it easy to understand, I like to think this way. If the stiffener only grabs the web, it's usually trying to help the column in shear. If the stiffener grabs the flanges, like these horizontal ones, it is usually trying to resist the tension and compression forces from the bending moment.
This one is a bolted moment end plate.
This one is also very common. As I mentioned, the diagonal stiffener is required if the column web doesn't have enough shear capacity for this connection. If you need a diagonal stiffener here, make sure you detail it in a way that it does not clash with the bolts. You can also weld a thick plate flat against the web, which is called a doubler plate.
This is an apex connection used a lot in portal frames.
Yeah, it is where the two rafters meet at the top.
This is a bolted splice connection when you need to extend a beam or a column.
You use splices when the member is too long to transport, too long to fabricate, hard to install in one piece, or when you need to join two members on site. You don't just put a splice anywhere. Ideally, you think about where the forces are more manageable. For example, in a portal frame rafter, a common good location to consider is near the point of contraflexure, where the bending moment is close to zero. This way you design the connection mostly for shear and axial forces. In a simply supported beam, I would try to locate the splices as close as possible to the supports, which is where we get the lowest bending moment regions. And that applies to reinforced concrete too. You don't want to lap the bottom reinforcement at mid-span because that's where the moments are the highest.
And reinforced concrete structures are typically designed to transfer moment, as the structure is monolithic and there's negative and positive reinforcement as well.
Yeah, as I said, nothing is perfectly fixed or perfectly pinned. For reinforced concrete, you can apply some stiffness reduction factor if you want to.
The next point I'll touch upon is the stiffness of the elements. Stiffer structural elements will attract more of the internal forces. A very stiff beam will take away the internal forces from a more flexible column. I'll show you in a practical example. Let's consider a 250 I-beam supported by two 250 columns, and the columns are fully fixed to the beam. So here we're expecting some negative moment at the column under gravity loads. As you can see, we've got 111 kilonewtons meters positive bending moment and 89 kilonewtons meter negative. Therefore, the beam is transferring moment to the column as expected from a fixed connection. Now let's change the size of this beam to a much stiffer cross section, like a 610 UB. Now you can see that even though I haven't changed the connection and the column is still fully fixed to the beam, there's almost no transfer of moment. We went from 89 kilonewtons meter to 9 kilonewtons meter, and this happens because now you have a stiff beam supported by a relatively flexible column. In any structural system, the internal forces are distributed among the structural elements according to their relative stiffness. You can imagine a reinforced concrete beam supported by a column made of gummy bears. Even though it's a delicious column and the column is full,
I have to agree with that. Gummy bears are delicious indeed.
Fixed to the beam, the gummy bears are too flexible and will not be able to take any moment. And that's what happened to our 610 UB supported by 250 UB. And 250 UB is like a gummy bear if compared to the 610 UB. It is important to keep these ideas in mind when designing a beam without taking into account the stiffness of the support. We often simplify our designs by replacing the column for support like this, and if we were to analyze this beam like that, we would get a bending moment diagram completely different from this structure. Here we're getting 135 kilonewtons meter, while here it is only 9 kilonewtons meter. This support here is an idealized, perfectly rigid support, and there's no perfectly rigid support in real life. Now, going back to that first image that I showed you in the beginning of the video, it definitely looks like a configuration of a fixed connection. However, if the flange of the column is not stiff enough, it could deform and the beam could rotate, which would invalidate our assumptions of a fixed connection.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain in the beginning. A connection can be detailed like a fixed connection locally, but the full system might still behave flexibly. Fixity is not just the plate, it is the beam, column, connection, base plate, footing, and soil all working together. That's why you have to be careful when you're designing a single element without taking into consideration what it is connected to. So the better question is not just, is this connection fixed or pinned? The better question is, does the whole system behave like the model I'm using? It behaves like my assumptions.
That's why we use stiffness sometimes, and you gotta be mindful of these details.
If those parts deform too much, your fixed connection might not behave fixed anymore. So stiffeners help with that.
Have your 4 bolts, column welded to the base plate, but if your base plate is not thick enough, it can deform, and therefore it's not a fixed connection anymore.
You have to be careful with fixed base plate connections anyway. A fixed base can be inappropriate because the first thing you have to consider is the rigidity of the footing. There's no point in spending money into a solid base plate connection with 4 bolts, thick plate that can transfer bending moment into the footing if the moment will cause the base to rotate and release the moment. So unless your footings are on rock or some deep rigid piles, in most cases I would take it as pinned or at least reduce the stiffness a bit. If you're dealing with transient loads like wind, you might be able to get your design to work with the fixed connection, but for permanent loads it's safer to assume some rotation of the footing.
Stop for here now because this video is getting too long, but if you have any questions or you would like to add some more information, just leave a comment below.
So overall, past Gabriel did okay. The explanation was not too terrible. The shirt was terrible for sure, but the main lesson was pretty good. So subscribe to his channel. He's a nice dude. I know him personally. If you like this type of reaction content, let me know in the comments and I'll make more of them. If not, let me know what you like and I'll see you in the next one.